It started the week I got home from college. I was standing in the kitchen in nothing but basketball shorts, rummaging through the fridge, when I heard the front door slam open and my brother's voice echo through the house. Yo, we brought pizza. And by we, he meant himself and Leo. Leo had always been around my brother's best friend since middle school. He was the guy who came to our family barbecues, who stayed over during the holidays, who once taught me how to drive stick shift in his busted-out Mustang, and then threatened to kill me if I told anyone he stalled it. He was loud, athletic, kind of a flirt, but always harmless. Or at least, I used to think he was. "Didn't know you were back yet," Leo said, sauntering into the kitchen behind my brother. He was taller than I remembered, maybe buffer, tan from the early summer sun. His eyes did a quick scan of me. Bare chest, messy hair, boxers just barely hidden by the shorts, and then landed right on my face. "Looks like someone's been hitting the gym," he said, biting into a slice of pepperoni. I blinked. Hi," he laughed. "Hi." It was just a dumb throwaway comment, the kind of teasing he always did. But something about the way he said it, his eyes not exactly moving away as quickly as they used to, lingered with me that night. And it kept happening. At first, it was just casual stuff. We'd all be hanging out in the backyard, Zach grilling burgers, Leo and me tossing a football, and I'd catch him watching me, smirking. Or he'd sit way too close on the couch, knee against mine, and when I shifted away, he'd just grin and shift closer. Like it was a game. "You got a girlfriend up at school?" he asked one night when Zach went inside to grab drinks. "No," I said, fiddling with the bottle cap in my hand. Leo leaned back in his chair, watching me. "Boyfriend?" I froze. "Why? You interested in setting me up or something?" He just laughed. "You're cute when you're nervous." I rolled my eyes and told him to get lost. But I was blushing, and he definitely noticed. At some point, I started looking forward to seeing him. I told myself it was because he was funny, easy to talk to, and had this laid-back confidence that made everything feel like a joke. But then came the night I knew, like really knew. He wasn't kidding. It was just me and him. Zach had gone to a concert with his girlfriend and left us behind, and Leo stayed late. We ended up watching a movie in the living room, lights low, popcorn bowl between us. Somewhere around the halfway point, his leg pressed against mine. Neither of us moved. "You ever think about it?" he asked, out of nowhere. "About what?" "Doing something different." I turned my head, confused. "Define different." Leo didn't look away. "Like, with someone unexpected." I stared at him. "Is this still part of your I mess with everyone routine?" He leaned in a little, that damn smirk on his face. "What if it's not?" I laughed. It was awkward, high-pitched, nervous. "Dude, you're Zach's best friend. And you're not answering the question." "I think you've had too much beer," I said, trying to deflect. Leo's hand nudged my knee. Just barely, but it was there. Solid. Real. Not a joke. "You're not bad at this," he said, voice low. "The pretending you don't know what's happening thing. But you're not fooling me." I didn't sleep much that night. Even after Leo left, after we both pretended nothing weird had happened, after I made some dumb excuse about being tired and practically shoved him out the front door, I lay awake, staring at my ceiling, heart pounding. I wasn't just imagining it, that was the worst part. Leo had been flirting with me, and not just in the harmless, joking way he used to when we were kids. No, this was something else, something loaded. The way he looked at me now was different. Like he knew he was getting under my skin and didn't care. Like he wanted to see how far he could push it. And apparently, pretty damn far. The next day, I tried to play it cool. Zach invited a bunch of people over, his girlfriend, a few other friends from high school, and the backyard turned into a mini summer party. Burgers on the grill, beers in coolers, music playing from a Bluetooth speaker, normal stuff. Except it didn't feel normal, not with Leo there. I caught him watching me from across the yard, sunglasses hiding his eyes but not the smirk on his face. He was lounging on one of the deck chairs, shirt off, beer in hand, like he didn't have a care in the world. Like he wasn't the reason I was avoiding eye contact and sweating more than the weather required. Later, while everyone else was inside playing cards, I went out back to get some air. I figured I'd get a few minutes alone to clear my head. Instead, I found Leo sitting on the edge of the pool, feet in the water, alone. He turned when he heard me. "Hey." "Hey?" I said, not moving closer. "You avoiding me now?" he asked, like he already knew the answer. I exhaled. "Not everything's about you." Leo raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" I shook my head and sat down a few feet away from him, keeping some distance. The water lapped gently against the edge of the pool. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then he said, "I meant what I said last night." I looked over. "Which part?" "The part where I said you're not fooling me." I bit the inside of my cheek, trying to decide whether to laugh or punch him. "You've always flirted with everyone, Leo. That's your thing. I don't even know if you're serious or just bored." His eyes met mine. No smirk this time. "I'm not bored." That shut me up. We sat in silence for a beat longer. Then he leaned back on his hands, tilting his head toward me. "Look, if I'm making you uncomfortable, I'll stop," he said. "But I'm not messing with you. I mean it. You've changed. It's hard not to notice." That last part hit different. There wasn't any teasing in his tone now. Just this calm, matter-of-fact honesty that made it feel real. Too real. I stood up, trying to shake it off. "I need another drink." He stood too. "I'll come with." "Don't." He paused. "Why not?" I turned to him. "Because I don't know what you want." Leo stepped forward, closing the distance between us. "Maybe I want to see if you feel the same way." I stared at him, heart hammering. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. He didn't press. He just gave me a look, a quiet, patient one, then nodded. "Okay," he said softly. "Let me know if you figure it out." And just like that, he walked past me and back into the house, leaving me standing there, completely unraveled. The next few days were weird. Not bad. Weird. Leo wasn't around as much. When he did come over, it was usually just to drop something off for Zach or hang around briefly before ducking out with some half-made excuse. And when we were in the same room, he didn't push it. No smirking, no teasing, no flirting. He gave me space. And I hated how much I noticed the absence of him. I kept replaying that night by the pool, his voice, calm and steady, saying, "Maybe you want to see if you feel the same way." No games, no jokes. Just the truth, handed to me like it was no big deal. Like I wouldn't spend the next 3 days losing sleep over it. I kept catching myself looking at my phone, wondering if he'd text. He didn't, so I tried to forget it, pushed it out of my head, went back to being just Zach's younger brother, not the guy who maybe, possibly, felt something for his brother's best friend. But of course, life has a way of making sure things aren't that simple. It was a Saturday, stupid hot and cloudless. My parents were out of town visiting relatives, and Zach was working a late shift at the bar he picked up summer hours at. I was home alone, sprawled across the living room couch in nothing but mesh shorts, flipping channels and half dozing. Then came the knock on the door. I opened it, and there he was. Leo. White tank top. Gym shorts, hair still damp from a shower. One eyebrow lifted like I'd kept him waiting all afternoon. "Hey," he said casually. "Zach around?" I leaned against the door frame. "You know he's not," he smirked. "Worth a try." "Why are you really here?" I asked, not even bothering to hide the suspicion in my voice. Leo scratched the back of his neck, his tone suddenly less confident. "I don't know, I guess. I was hoping you'd be home." I stared at him for a second. "You said you'd stop if I wanted you to." "Yeah." "I never said I wanted you to stop." He blinked. Then, very slowly, he smiled. "You sure?" "No?" That made him laugh. "Cool, that clears things up." I stepped aside to let him in. "You want water or something?" He followed me inside. "Nah, I'm good." He sat on the couch like he'd done it 100 times before. Legs spread. one arm casually slung over the backrest. I tried not to look at him, tried not to think about what it meant that he was here, alone, again. So, he said after a beat, "Can I ask you something?" I grabbed the remote to have something to do with my hands. "Shoot. Have you really never done anything with a guy before?" My hand froze. "Wow. Okay," I said. "Going straight for it, huh?" Leo shrugged. "You're the one who said you didn't want me to stop." I stared at the TV, but I couldn't focus on the screen. "No, I haven't." He nodded slowly. "That's kind of what I thought." There was silence. The air felt thick. I finally turned to him. "And you?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, then said, "I've been with people. Nothing serious." "Right," I said, even though I wasn't sure what that meant. "Do you think about it?" he asked. "Being with a guy, I mean?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat had gone dry. Leo leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It doesn't have to be a thing, you know. We don't have to call it anything. But if you want to figure stuff out, I'm here." My heart was hammering so hard I thought he could hear it. I looked at him, really looked at him. And for once, I didn't run. I said, "Okay." "Okay," I said, and it felt like jumping off a ledge I hadn't even realized I was standing on. Leo didn't move right away. He just looked at me, as if trying to figure out whether I meant it, whether I really wanted this. His smirk was gone. That confident, teasing expression he always wore around Zach, around everyone else, it faded. And for a moment, he looked serious, like he'd been waiting for me to say that longer than he wanted to admit. "You sure?" he asked quietly. I swallowed, nodded. "Not really. But, yeah." He didn't say anything to that. Just reached up, almost hesitantly, and rested his hand against the side of my face. His thumb brushed my cheek, barely there, but the contact sent a shock through my chest. We just stayed like that for a second, and then he leaned in. It wasn't some dramatic, movie-worthy kiss. It was soft, careful, testing, like he wasn't trying to impress me, just show me something real. His lips were warm and a little chapped, and I wasn't sure what to do with my hands, so I just froze, breathing him in. When he pulled back, he kept his forehead close to mine. "That okay?" I nodded. "Yeah." Leo smiled a little. "You didn't freak out." "Give it a minute," I muttered, and that made him laugh. He sat back, legs still spread wide like always, but now his hand stayed on my knee, not moving, not pushing, just there. Present. "You're not going to tell Zach, are you?" I asked, suddenly. Leo's expression didn't change. "You want me to?" "No," I said too fast. He nodded. "Then I won't." I stared down at his hand. The room was so quiet I could hear the faint tick of the kitchen clock down the hall. It was the first time in weeks I wasn't trying to figure out if Leo was joking, if he was playing some game. "I used to think you were just messing with me," I said. Leo shrugged. "I was, at first. But then, I don't know, you kind of snuck up on me." I looked up. "What does that mean?" He gave this little smile. Tired but real. "Means I noticed. You. Not in the, hey, my best friend's little brother's growing up kind of way. Just you. And maybe it should have scared me, but it didn't. Not anymore." The rest of that afternoon passed in this weird, calm haze. We didn't make out on the couch. We didn't rip each other's clothes off. We didn't even really touch, aside from his hand on my knee. But somehow, that made it feel heavier, realer. Leo didn't rush anything. He stayed a little while, talked to me like normal, well, mostly normal. And when Zach texted that he was headed home, Leo stood up and gave me a look like, "You good?" I nodded, and he left without saying another word. No secret handshakes, no weird goodbyes. Just a small smile over his shoulder before the door clicked shut. And then I was alone again. Only this time, everything felt different. I don't know what I expected to happen next. Maybe that he'd ghost me, or pretend it never happened, or fall back into that flirty, half-joking mode that kept me constantly second-guessing. But he didn't. If anything, Leo got quieter. softer. He still came around, still hung out with Zach, but now he lingered when we crossed paths. He'd shoot me a look when Zach wasn't paying attention, a brush of his fingers when he passed by. Not always. Just enough to remind me that I wasn't imagining it. And I couldn't lie. I started watching him too. One day Zach had to run to the store and left Leo and me fixing a crooked shelf in the garage. It wasn't even broken, honestly. We just wanted an excuse to do something. To talk, alone. I meant what I said, you know, Leo said, crouched beside me, screwdriver in hand. About what? About you sneaking up on me. I kept my eyes on the wood paneling. Still not sure what that means. He glanced over, biting the inside of his cheek before answering. Means I wasn't planning on feeling like this. Like what? Leo didn't answer right away. Just looked at me, steady for a few seconds before saying, like I want something with you. The silence between us thickened. I sat back on my heels, feeling 1,000 different things all at once. Relief, terror, heat under my skin that had nothing to do with the summer air. What kind of something? I asked finally. Leo smiled softly. Whatever you're okay with. That answer stayed with me for the rest of the day. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Whatever you're okay with. The words kept echoing in my head, looping on repeat as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow circles above me. They were simple, but not casual, not meaningless. There was weight to them. The kind of weight I wasn't used to carrying, not with someone like Leo. Because this wasn't just some random guy the first met at a party, or someone I could ghost if things got weird. This was my brother's best friend. A guy who knew our house like it was his own, who had shared 1,000 inside jokes with Zach, who'd been part of the backdrop of my life since I was 15. This wasn't supposed to happen, and yet, here it was. And the worst, or maybe the best part, I didn't want to stop it. The next time we were alone, it was after a lazy afternoon swim. Zach had gone inside to take a call from his girlfriend, and Leo and I were drying off on the back deck. I was lying on my towel, shirtless, half asleep in the sun when he dropped down next to me, water still dripping from his hair. You got plans tonight? He asked. I opened one eye. Nope. Come out with me. I rolled onto my side. Like just us? Leo nodded. Just us. I searched his face for the joke, but there wasn't one. Okay, I said, voice steady. That night, we ended up at this quiet lookout spot on the edge of town. Somewhere teenagers went to drink and make out, but no one ever came after dark on a weekday. He parked the car, killed the engine, and we just sat there for a while, watching the glow of city lights flicker in the distance. Neither of us said much. Eventually, he reached for my hand. Just took it. No warning. It wasn't even a big gesture, just fingers laced together across the center console. But for me, it was everything. I know this is complicated, he said softly. Yeah, I murmured, kind of an understatement. Leo looked over at me, his expression serious. I don't want to mess this up. You mean with me or with Zach? He paused. Both. I looked down at our hands, at the way his thumb kept brushing the side of mine. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't have some perfect plan for what came next, but I knew one thing for sure. I don't want to mess this up either, I said. He smiled, just barely, and then, without needing to ask, he leaned over and kissed me again. Still soft, still careful, but longer this time. More certain, like he wasn't holding back anymore. Neither was I. After that night, everything changed, but not in the way I expected. There were no grand declarations, no labels, no dramatic fallout. Life went on. Mostly the same. Zach still blasted music too loud when he grilled in the backyard. Leo still came around a few times a week. My parents remained blissfully oblivious to anything beyond who was leaving dishes in the sink. But underneath the normal, something else had started to grow. Quietly. Carefully. Between me and Leo. We didn't talk about what we were, not exactly. But we started spending more time alone. Small things, an extra coffee when he came over, long walks when the sun was setting, sitting too close on the couch when Zach wasn't looking. Sometimes, when no one was around, he'd kiss me like he couldn't help it. and I didn't want him to stop. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, Leo stayed late. We were in the kitchen, the hum of the fridge filling the quiet. I stood near the counter sipping water, and he leaned against the sink, watching me in that way he always did, like he knew exactly what I was thinking. "You ever think about telling him?" he asked. "Zach?" He nodded. I froze. "You trying to die?" Leo gave a half smile. "No, just wondering if you'd want to, eventually." I looked down at the floor. "I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. Still figuring me out." He nodded. "Fair." Then he stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his chest through his shirt. "I'm not rushing you," he said. "I just don't want to feel like I'm hiding you." Those words hit harder than I expected. Because he wasn't just talking about Zach. He was talking about us, about this thing between us that was no longer just a summer flirtation or a passing what if. It was something more. And I didn't want to keep it in the dark forever. "I'm not ready yet," I said, "but I don't want to hide either. Just give me time." He nodded again, then gently tugged me forward by the front of my shirt, kissing me slow, like we had all the time in the world. The last week of summer crept up faster than I wanted. The air started to cool just a little at night. Stores were swapping out pool floats for backpacks. And that dull, familiar anxiety began to settle in my chest, the one that always came before going back to campus. But this year, it wasn't just about classes or leaving home. It was about Leo. We were sitting on the hood of his car, out by the same lookout where we first held hands. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting everything in that soft, blue-gray twilight. He handed me a warm bottle of Coke from the cup holder and bumped his shoulder against mine. "So," he said, "you heading back next weekend?" "Yeah," Leo nodded. "You excited?" I shrugged. "I don't know, it kind of feels like I just got home." He went quiet after that, just stared out at the city lights for a while. And I could feel it, that tension that had been slowly building under the surface all week. Neither of us had said the obvious. That I was leaving. That he was staying. That whatever this was, us, was about to hit a new kind of unknown. "I've been thinking," he said after a while, "about what you said, about not wanting to hide." I turned to him. "I get it," he added quickly. "I'm not pushing. But if you ever want to tell Zach, I'd be there for that. With you." I stared at him. "You'd do that?" "I'd do a lot more than that," he said, then smiled. "But yeah, I would." And that was it. I don't know why, but that moment, more than any kiss, more than anything he'd said all summer, that was when I knew this wasn't just some summer thing. This wasn't a phase or a distraction or something that would fade when school started again. This was real. And yeah, it was complicated. Messy. Not something I could explain in a text to my brother or in a casual family dinner conversation. But it was ours. As we sat on the hood of that car, hands brushing, silence stretching comfortably between us, I realized something simple but heavy. He wasn't joking. Not back in June, not by the pool, not when he first looked at me like I was more than just his best friend's kid brother. He had been serious from the start, and now, so was I.